I'm a woman with a Y, a W-H-Y. It's a mission in my heart that comes from my story. And what is my why? Well, I believe that too many women and too many girls are held back by appearance shame, and that their conversations with the mirror in the morning are stopping them from showing up in the world. And girls too young are stopping things they love because of their bodies, and they're judging themselves. And I know this feeling really well. Mine started very young. When I looked in the mirror, all I could see was chubby. I didn't look like the girls in the magazines. I didn't match. I didn't feel like I was enough. So I made it my number one priority to secretly stop eating and to control my body. That was my focus. And so I did that. That's all I was focused on, and it spiraled quickly. By the time I was 13, I was diagnosed with anorexia, and it was an extreme wake-up call. But this torturous journey ended up being one of the biggest teachers in my life. With a lot of help, medical help, counselors, I was able to refocus my energy onto playing sports and getting physical and realizing that my body was there to help me do the things I wanted to do versus something I needed to control. So with that help, I started to fall in love with my body. And in that space and that time, I grew and rebirthed. But that dark time, this hard time, it stayed with me. And it haunted me as I raised my daughters and started watching them face even more pressure than I ever faced with social media and online bombardments on how they should look and how they should act. And I was worried that they would fall in the traps that I did. We had lots of conversations about treating your body like your best friend and taking care of her so she could take you the places you needed to go. And when they were ready, I eventually told them the story of my eating disorder and all that happened to me. And thankfully, the cycle did stop with me. My girls are very healthy. But coming back to that sharing and that connecting with them, it was 3 years ago we went to Costa Rica, and we were just on a little adventure learning paddleboarding together. We went out on a trip together, and I just remember watching them and seeing them stand up for the first time and get that feeling of confidence as they started paddling out into the ocean. And my past and my present all came together. I realized how much little Mia, that little 12-year-old Mia, would have loved this experience and how much it would have benefited her. It was in that moment that this idea for Girls on Boards came to life. I knew that I wanted to take young girls, especially those that were like me and had struggled so hard to love their blossoming bodies. I wanted to take them on experiences that really brought them into their bodies and into this kind of magical place. And so I came back to Nova Scotia lit up. No clue how to do it, no experience in this field at all. But I had this mission, I had this why now in my heart. And so I started sharing my story. I shared my reason, my story of anorexia, and also what I was wanting to do, empower young women to love their bodies. And thankfully, support came because so many women realize how important it is to love your body, especially teen girls, and how detrimental it is to hate your body and how much it stops you from getting out there and doing what you can do. So we actually were able to raise funds for our first set of boards, and that summer I jumped in, I took the training, and started taking these teens out on paddleboarding trips. They were sponsored, body-positive paddleboarding trips. We went out, and I would teach them basic paddling skills. And on every trip, so all these girls had to come out, and we'd go. They're first learning something new. They're taking that risk, and then we paddle out, into the water, and it's a little unstable, and they're feeling nervous because they're on the water. And then that first step, they have to put their foot down, trust themselves a little, and that takes a bit. But then when they're ready to stand up on water, they have to trust their core. They have to stand up slowly. But when they stand up and look around and realize they're standing on water, that feeling that comes up through their bodies and out into their head, and they know they can do this, that success, that is the reward of fearlessness, and they can feel it. And I could spend all day telling these girls they can do anything. I could tell them they're beautiful and their bodies are amazing, but that feeling they get when they stand up and have that success on the board, they'll never forget it. They can always go back to it in their memories, and that's a start of embodying their own power. And so in this experience, I've been able to witness that hundreds of times now, that same feeling, that same empowering embodiment is what we use. And in that space, then we can circle up, and we always have these board conversations. So we circle up the boards on the water, and we talk about body love. Always, our group leaders, they share a story of their own struggles as a teen. I often shared my story of anorexia just as an opening and as a way to open the gates. And it's amazing, it's incredible how girls open up when there's that safe space to talk, and when they're away from phones and social media, pressure, school, everything. And we're sitting on these boards, they have this feeling in their body, and now we can open up, and we can talk about the pressures, and we can talk about things we really wanted to do, and places we want to go, and all the girls were fully there. It brings to mind a quote from Brene Brown, who's a famous shame researcher, that she's had some pretty famous TED Talks, and her quote is, "Empathy erases shame." And that is what I witness when we're out on the boards. When we share our stories and feel connected to other people, and even when someone's not ready to share their own story, even just knowing that other people are going through the same things as us, it helps us all come out of the shame closet, helps us understand ourselves a little bit more, and it helps us not feel alone. So that summer, that idea that I left Costa Rica with became a fully operational nonprofit business here in Nova Scotia. But as with any business, we had to fund ourselves. There was some donations, but there wasn't enough to cover everything. So we came up with this social enterprise model, which I like to call the pay it forward model, because it's ended up being a big part of how our company is growing. And so I started offering paid women's trips to sponsor the teen trips. And this model has worked extremely well, because as you can imagine, the women come knowing they're getting an amazing paddleboarding trip, but they also know they're sporting the girls. And that story of loving your body, they understand it very clearly how it's important. And the fact that when we're out on the boards and having that same feeling in ourselves, we realize how powerful and potent that message is for all of us at any age, to re-feel your power, to fall in love with your body. And so we've had a lot of fun funding our program, and these trips that we go on end up being the gold that we pass on, because every trip, it's really easy to get lots of good wisdom when you ask a woman, what do you wish you could tell your teenage self? What do you wish you would have known when you were a teenager about your body and about your life? And so that is a lot of the messaging that we can share with teens as well. And mostly it is about loving yourself and trusting yourself, as we've already heard today over and over again. And as we go forward with Girls on Boards, we've kind of created what I call an empowerment equation. And it's basically this: physical experiences helping girls and women get out of their bodies, out of their heads, into their bodies. And you add in some good conversations to connect them and feel as a community. And all of these girls and women feel ready. They leave these experiences, feel ready to pay it forward. And they're also feeling much more connected and confident in their own bodies. So we've got Girls on paddle boards and snowboards programs now. We're bringing in skateboards, and there's surfing, but of course you can always dig deeper and think bigger. And so there's girls on company boards and leadership roles and community leadership places as well. All of these are places where hiding is not an option and where showing up completely is what the world needs. And this is what we want to bring. So today, what I want to leave you with is, first, take this empowerment equation into your own life. Find ways to fall back in love with your own body, because if you have a bully in your mirror every morning telling you you should hide, or you need to change things, or you're not enough, that is stopping you from showing up fully in your life. Being your number one first love in the morning is one of the biggest growth areas we can all work towards. And secondly, find people to share your experiences with, so you have that confident community in your court. So take this equation and bring it into your life. Go do things that maybe help you find your edge, maybe help you trust yourself a little bit more, and really feel that power come from your toes up to your head. And the other thing I want to leave you with, for all you women, you girls out there with a why in your heart, like part of your story that's pulling at you to serve, pulling at you to give, this is me asking you to just step into it. Even if you don't know how it's going to turn out, you don't have it all figured out, because a woman with a why is unstoppable. And when you use that as your fuel, it will take you places you never dreamed possible. So be fearless and pay it forward. Thanks.